Hello, welcome to lesson 7 of JavaScript from Introduction to Application. Today, we'll be looking into statements in JavaScript. I will introduce you to the if statement, switch statement, for statement, and a while statement. Alright, let's dive in. In JavaScript, we use the if statement to tell JavaScript which part of the code we want to run. So the if statement looks something like this. You do if, you open parentheses, so you put your condition in this parentheses, and if that condition is true, so if the condition here is true, what is inside this curly bracket is going to run. If it's not true, then JavaScript just keeps through this. It doesn't run the code inside of this curly brackets. So let's use this student for example. Say student that has a name of John and the age of 20. And we can use what we call classification. So we can do variable classification is equal to empty string, and we can say if student dot age is equal to 20, then classification is equal to junior. So what we're saying now is that if the age of the student is 20, then we can say the student is a junior, is classified as a junior. But if the age is not 20, then this is not going to run. It just goes, it skips through this and it goes to the next line, which is this line. So let's run this code. And before we do that, let's assign our classification to the result. And just make sure that, this code actually goes through base and it runs it. And let's save it. Let's refresh our screen. So we have junior. So that means the student age is, of course, 20. So we can introduce a different operator here. Instead of equal to, we can do if student age is greater than 20, then let's run this code. But if not, it's not going to run. So we can see what this gives us. Refresh the screen and it gives us nothing. So another thing we can do here is to introduce the else. So if this, else, do something else. So we can say if student age is equal to, say, 18, and it's gonna be a freshman. Else, if student age is equal to 19, so the student is gonna be a sophomore. So that's a second year student. And else, if student age is equal to 20, so we're going to have a junior. Else, the student is a senior. So you can look at the structure. So what we're doing is if student age is equal to 18, you run this code. Else, if the student age is this, you run this code. Else, if student is this, you run this code. Else, so that means if none of this is true, then you're going to default to this. So let's save it, and I'm going to change the student age to 19. So let's refresh our screen, and you see our student is a sophomore. It's a second year student. So we can do the same thing, but the problem here is if you put the student age to be 17, it's going to tell you the student is a senior. It's a senior. So what that is doing is if none of this condition is true, then it just runs this last one. So now we understand the structure of the if statement. So to make this a little true, we can just say, so if student.age is less than 18, so we can say the classification is not in college. So if your age is less than 18, you're not in college. Then we put the else here. Else, if the age is 18, you do this, you do that, you do this. So with 17, if we run 17, now we see what it's going to give us. So it tells us not in college. So if you find yourself using the if statement on a particular variable more than twice, so in this case, the variable is the age of the student. And you see, we have done that 1, 2, 3, 4, and like 5 places. So if you find yourself doing this, it's time to switch to the switch statement. So the switch statement can capture this variable, and now you can consider all the different values of the variable. So how do you use the switch variable? So you got to watch me. So what I'm going to do is now introduce the switch statement. I'm going to say switch. Then I put a student age in the switch as a condition. Student.age. And this is what I'm going to do. So this is what your switch statement looks like. You just switch and the student.age. Now in the switch body, you have different cases of the age. So case 18, that means if the age is 18, if the value in this parenthesis is 18, then run this code. So I'm gonna say the classification is freshman. Then you break the statement. But you can do case 19. That means if the value is 19, then, and you do the same thing, break. So it is required that you put your break here. If you do not do that, then what's going to happen is what you call fall through. This is going to fall through. That means this is going to run and it's not going to stop, and the next condition is going to run as well. And you don't want that. You just want when the case is 18, you want this to run, and when it's 19, you want this to run. So you need to put your break after each case. And the next case is 20, and that is the junior, and you do break. And next case is 21, and you do senior and break. So the switch statement takes something called the default. The default is if none of these cases is true, then just run this one, default to this. So the default can be not in college. And you can do break. It's not that important to put break here, it doesn't do anything, but put break. So this is a very simple statement. You do just switch and you put a value that you want to consider different values for. You put a value here, and here we're considering different values on age, and we're looking at different cases. So if the value is 18, we run this line of code and we break, then we stop. That means we get out of the switch statement. If the case is 19, we run this and get out of it. So just like that. But if none of this is true, then we default to this. We just run not in college. So I'm going to delete the if statement aspect of it. So we can play with this. Age is 17 right now. I'm going to change the age to 19. So refresh. It says sophomore. If I change the age to 30, so it tells me it's not in college. Now, let's move to the for statement. You use the for statement usually to iterate through a list of items or repeat a line of code for a particular number of times. Well, I'm going to demonstrate this to you using an example. A very good example might be when you want to display, say, a line of greetings in a number of times. Let's say you want to display on the screen hello world for 5 times. So you can use a for statement to do that. Let me just get rid of everything on the screen, and let's say we have greetings. So we have a greeting that has nothing in it, just an empty string, and we want to display hello world 5 times on the screen. How do we do that? So like I told you, we can use a for statement. So this is a for statement. For, you write a for like that, and you declare a variable, say I is equal to 0. Now after that is semicolon, and say I is less than 5, I plus plus. I know this looks a little involved, but what you're simply doing here is this. You're saying that I'm going to start my variable I with 0. And you're saying as long as I is less than 5, run this code, run everything in this block. And what is I plus plus is doing is that after one iteration, after one step, it increases this by 1. So you go first step, it's going to start from 0. The next time it changes it to 1. It goes on and on until I is now less than 5. So as long as I is less than 5, this code will continue to run. And what we want to do now is to say greeting plus equal to. So what we're doing here is that I'm going to add to greetings hello world. So what this does is it's going to add hello world to greetings. But if you display this hello world, and it's going to be kind of jam packed, so what you want to do is probably put a break after hello world so that every hello world is going to display in its own line. So I'm going to put a break here like that. So that way we have a hello world on each line. And I'm saying my result is greeting. So I'm assigning greeting to result. So like I told you, this is going to run 5 times and assign the results to greeting. Let's save and run and see what we get. We refresh the screen and we see, you see we have hello world 5 different times. And one thing you want to do is probably you want to see what are the values of I. Let's go and see what the values of I are. So here I'm going to put I. So here what I'm doing is I'm putting the value of I plus it's going to put a dash and it displays hello world. So that means it's going to show you the index. So I'm calling I is like it's your index. So I then displays hello world. I'm going to save and you see what we get. So you see it starts from 0 until 4. So it doesn't run 5 because 5 is not less than 5. So it goes from 0 to 4. That's how you do from 0 to 4. That gives you 5 different items. And a very popular use of for statement is iterating through a list of items. So if you have a list of items like an array and you want to go through each element in the array and you want to do something with elements in the array, you can actually use a for statement to do that, which is like your most convenient way of doing it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say I have a numbers, array of numbers, say. So I have an array of numbers 1 through 5, and I want to multiply everything inside here by 5. So I want every item in this array to be multiplied by 5. And the best way to do that for me, what I can use to do that is using my for statement. Now, instead of using 5 here, I'm going to use the nums, the length. So this is the length of the array. So I don't have to put this number here. It depends on the number of the array. It doesn't matter. I can put up to 6, 7. It doesn't really matter. So this is going to capture the length of the array and it's going to use that to go through each of the elements in the array. So I'm going through the array and I'm going to say nums I, which is the index. I'm using the index. Don't forget that our I is going to be increasing from 0 to 1. And remember that arrays has index starting from 0. So we have a num1, then is going to be equal to nums I times 5. So what this does is to capture the original value of nums that if this I is equal to 0, then it captures the first element, it multiplies it by 5, then it assigns it back to its position. So put it back in the first element. And to display this result, let's use our JSON.stringify. So with this, we stringify the array, then we can display it on the screen. So I'm going to refresh and we'll see what we get. So you see what we get. Everything is multiplied by 5. That is really cool. So the last example I'm going to give you on the for statement is to populate an array with some values. So let's say we have an empty array that has no element, and we want to add like 15 different elements to it. And what we can do is just do nums.push I. And if we do this, our value is going to start from 0 up to 14. And I don't want that. I want it to start from 1 through 15. So it's going to be I plus 1. So that way, we're going to start from 1. And we go all the way. So let's save this. And here, the value is being assigned to the result, and we can display it on the screen. We refresh, and you see we have a value from 1 through 15. So, and the last statement I would like to discuss with you is a while statement. So I would like to tell you that everything that you can do with your for statement, you can do with a while statement. but it's just a matter of preference. So I'm going to change this one to use a while statement. So the same thing, we're starting from a null and an empty array, and we're trying to push 15 values or 15 items into the array. So I'm going to do the same thing using a while statement. So what I'm going to do is do a variable I, which is going to be my counter or my iterator or index, starting from 0, and I change this to be while I is less than 15, do this for me. So as long as I is less than 16, you say while whatever is here is true. If this is true, then you do this. And what I'm going to do is I plus plus, or let's do this. I'm going to do the plus plus I. So that means the value is increased before it's pushed into the array. A variable I is 0. So what I'm doing is I'm incrementing the value. So when the I comes here, it compares. If I is less than 15, then it's okay. I'm going to run this code. But when it gets here, it's incrementing the value of I. So I is increased from 0 to 1 here. And it goes up, it goes back, it compares 1. 1 is 1 less than 15 is true. Then it does the same thing. Now 1 is increased to 2. Now it's 2, it goes back. It's 2 less than 15, true, yeah, I run this code. So it does the same thing over and over again until I is 15, and it checks. If 15 is 15 less than 15, no, it's not less than 15, then it goes and it runs this line. So I'm gonna save and run the code. So let's refresh. So I refresh, it's the same value, just like we had last time. Yeah, I'm gonna give you one more example. Just the one that we did with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we want to multiply everything in this array by 5. So I'm going to use the same kind of structure. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to do nums I equals nums I times 5. So your multiplication sign is asterisk. So nums times 5, then you assign it back to this. And don't forget, if you leave your code like this without doing anything to it, this code is going to run forever, and you will run out of memory on your computer. It's going to tell you stack overflow, because here you are not incrementing your I. So your I is going to be 0 forever. It's going to be 0, goes back 0, goes back 0, and nothing is going to be here forever. So that's one of the things you have to be aware of when you're using a while loop. Make sure that this is eventually going to stop running. So you don't want to keep running forever. So what I want to do here is just do, after I've run that code, I'm going to do I plus plus. So I plus plus just increments I by 1. So it comes here 0, then it increases to 1, then it goes back until everything is fine. I'm going to save it and refresh the screen. Now we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and we have no. Where did this come from? Now let's go back to the code and see what we did wrong. And you see what we did? The problem is this: we are going from I to 15. And nums, you get here and there's no 15, there's no element that's 15. It stops at number 7. So we don't want to do this. What we want to do is we want to iterate between I less than nums the length. So this gives us the length of the array, so that way we don't go outside the array. So let's save this and go back and see what we have. We run it, and now we have it the way it should be. So this brings us to the end of lesson 7. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you around for lesson 8. In lesson 8, we'll be talking about functions in JavaScript. So in function, we will put all the things that we have learned together to be creating some useful functions in JavaScript. And I hope to see you around for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bye now.